So along these lines, especially after we're witnessing what we are witnessing right now across the world, it is the start of the academic school year. It is the start of the academic school year. We're sending our children back to preschool, back to grade school, back to elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and some are being sent away for college. And they're entering an environment which is going to be filled with trials and tribulations, where many of the people will be different from what we know Islam to be, right? And what Islam teaches. How do we prepare our children, our youth, to face these struggles, and how do we teach them in a way that they are able to navigate what today we feel some may think is like the hardest day of their lives? How do we instill that in them? How do we teach them to remain strong and steadfast?
Shaykh AbdulNasir.
I'll share two things. Both of them that, I'm not wise enough to kind of know the answer to that question, but what we've learned and what we've benefited from our teachers, what we've seen and experienced with our own parents. The first thing is, something that has to constantly be worked on a little bit more. It's not theoretical, it's also very, very practical, but still it's going to feel like a little bit of a big picture kind of thing. And what we're doing right here, a regular reading of the seerah within the home, and kind of like a reflective conversational reading of the seerah. Just take one little page, half a page, and just read that and discuss it and make it into like a daily thing. It can be 10 minutes, right? Even though we obviously got a lot more time, we waste so much time on so many different things. But start somewhere. It can be 10 minutes, but make that like a daily activity with one's children, with one's kids, because the confidence, the strength that a person derives from the life of the Prophet ﷺ is immense. It's powerful, right? All the early generation, right? The great grandson of the Prophet ﷺ is saying that. The grandson of Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu ta'ala anhu is talking about how they would teach us. So I think implementing the seerah in a very practical, interactive kind of way in our homes, I think will really, really help and give them something to find strength in. And then on a more active, practical, I guess, kind of level, or kind of like in a family strategy, a parenting strategy kind of level, it can be challenging. It is challenging. But remember, these are children. And a lot of times we project ourselves onto our children. We're adults. We're confident in our faith. We know who we are, even though adults do struggle. But you know what I'm saying? For children, they're very, very gentle, simple creatures. And so they need Muslim company. They need Muslim friends. If someone's children are going to a non-Muslim, largely majority non-Muslim school, and they're being kind of, inundated with all these different kind of influences and things, we got to provide them that Muslim outlet, and whatever it takes. I know life is hard. I know parents work super hard, but a little bit of extra struggle and effort to go out of our way to take kids to the youth group, to find a couple of other good, Muslim families with similar values, and take them there and give them that Muslim faith-based kind of outlet, that goes a really, really long way.
This comes back to what are the sacrifices we are making, and those sacrifices will be worthwhile in the manner that our children carry on the legacy of this ummah, right? Shaykh Hasib Noor, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, to go off of that, just personal realities. I mean, I was in high school when I met Shaykh AbdulNasir, let me put it that way. So, like, you tell us how old we both are. And I met him at an ISNA conference in Dallas. And it was just in the company of, people who who just finished what we're about to get into, and had their own struggles, but chose this path, and that inspired, of course, much of what we wanted to do as well. And I want you to understand that we're a social enterprise in Islam, right? Mm-hmm. We're sometimes kind of drawing away for how the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran essentially teaches faith in stories and examples. So when we say it's lived experiences and sacrifices through lived experiences, what Shaykh subhanAllah beautifully touched on is how much of what he said was actually the social environment that kids are in. How much of it is involving parents changing much of how they focus on their own lives. And subhanAllah, I was listening to Gabor Mate. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's probably one of the most influential trauma specialists in the world. He was, I think, from the family of Holocaust survivors, if not he himself, but he's from, and now he's the most anti-Zionist Jew, psychologist that there is. Beautiful human being, honestly. His books are recommended by Shaykh Yasmin bin Mujahid, others. But the point being is, he said something very powerful. He's like, I wouldn't let my children touch a phone in social media based on how much that impacts them, who they are, and their children, until they are of understanding and age and not in the developmental years. So he was talking about the powerful impact social media has, again, the social environment that build that reality for a lot of these children. So if we've already kind of gotten past that and they're already being influenced in negative ways, we can't really maybe detach them from those negative things that they are currently involved in. That exactly what was mentioned earlier is the social environments have to be impactful. There has to be some positive. There has to be some natural, organic method of influencing, and also, showing them the fact that Muslims have fun. Muslims come together, and with scholars, especially if you're in like Muslim cities, essentially that have people, subhanAllah, who have studied, and they can speak to a generation which does not get that much experience. So a one-to-one, it does have a powerful impact ultimately. And I think lastly, what I will say, because this topic is huge, it can be discussed in many different ways, but other than the social component, honestly, it is a struggle that not even some of the prophets of Islam, could get away from. We know the story of Nuh alayhi salam, who lost a son. He lost a son not just physically, but also because he didn't accept Islam, and others. So you have to understand that we just can't socially engineer good ends all the time. This might be a test in someone's life. So they should bear it with patience, do the best that they can. And subhanAllah, I met a sister who was taking care of 3 daughters on her own. And she's like, it's so overwhelming because they're in an environment and in a lifestyle that teaches them to question, why should we even do this? SubhanAllah. And she's doing her best. And I said to her, this is the struggle till you grow old. At the end of the day, the only comfort we have is with each other and trying to do your best. So just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always keep the door open to your children, try to build conversations, bring social enterprise, and at the end of the day, it's just like Hajj going between the mountains. Just pray and hope.